Today I wanted to give a summary of this book, Eat That Frog. The tagline is 21 Great Ways to Stop Procrastinating and Get More Done in Less Time by Brian Tracy. And this was suggested to me by one of my clients because the concept of what Brian Tracy is presenting in this book is if you have a list of things to do and there's the ugliest, biggest, scariest thing on that list, that's what the frog is. And if you complete that task first, if you eat one frog every morning, everything else you have to do should be easy. It's all smooth sailing from there. So that was an interesting concept. I use that in my business sometimes, but there are actually 21 tips that he gives in this book. And I started reading this book and then I got on a call with one of my clients. I do some integration consulting, which I call it that because if you're familiar with the EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, their org hierarchy is there's the visionary at the top, which is the business owner, and then the integrator is right below that. And that is what I do for solo advisors. They are the visionaries. And some of my existing clients who I've worked with and done projects with, I will offer, if it makes sense, that I could do this type of work for them. So this is one of those clients, and they need to implement EOS. We do it for my business, and I think they do need it as well. And there's a bit of a learning curve, and they prepare taxes for clients. So they're heading into tax season. I was like, let's pause on working together, come back over the summer, and let's see if we can kind of get onboarded with EOS then. But in the meantime, this book would be like a short read and have a lot of those like 21 productivity tips. And I said, if you're feeling guilty about your business not being organized and just being overwhelmed with everything, you can first tell yourself that that's okay, that a business is never perfect. You don't know everything. You're never able to operate 100% productivity all the time and have everything figured out. So tell yourself that. And if you can't believe it, buy this book and start reading it. So it just happened that I had read this book when I was talking to him. And so that was kind of my explanation to him about the book. And I finished it later that day. And I circled which of these chapters were my favorites. And at first, the first 5 chapters or so were kind of basics. I was like, okay, this book is like for high schoolers, like someone who has never been able to be productive, who can't focus, who just can't get stuff done. Yeah, this book would be helpful for them. But after I got further into it and I circled some of my favorite chapters, I was like, there are people born with different skill sets, and maybe people are not born with this skill set, but they have other strengths. So they have to develop this and work on it. And I was like, okay, so there's a place for it in a professional setting. And I like to think of it as like a book that would help a new or young professional develop these skills to be able to move into like a project management role or to then implement EOS. So of his 21 ways to stop procrastinating and get more done, I had 6 favorite tips. So I'm gonna give you a high-level summary of what those are. First is use the ABCDE method continually, which is just making a list of everything you have to do and prioritizing the most important ones. Next is apply the law of 3, and this is something that we do in my business. I do it with my executive assistant, which is understanding the 3 things that you have to do that are the most valuable to being successful in whatever it is that you do. So as a business owner, I have defined my big 3 things that I have to do. And that's how I figure out how to spend my time, is to focus on what I can do to become more successful in those 3 things. Everything else can either be delegated or pushed to later. It's not important right this second, typically. Next is prepare thoroughly before you begin. Yes, I cannot emphasize this enough. Just a little bit of planning goes a long way in the beginning of any project. Next is take it one oil barrel at a time. And he shares some great stories that illustrate these tips. But this is basically what I would call setting quarterly goals. So I can only mentally comprehend my time management for the next 2 or 3 months. And beyond that, it's all a guessing game. So I will set quarterly rocks for myself according to the EOS mindset. And that is what he's a proponent of here, actually. So like I said, foundational as a knowledge base to be able to implement EOS. And next, put pressure on yourself. You have to figure out what motivates you, what makes you work on stuff, and do that, essentially. Lastly, create large chunks of time. And this is what I learned from one of the other advisors that I've worked for in the past. He said he will set aside a few hours during the week to do what he calls deep work. And this is the kind of work that, like, sometimes you just have to get through emails, and it's a lot of little things, and you can get it done in maybe 30 minutes or an hour. But when do you have time to, like, mentally wrap your mind around a big project that is complex and you may need to do research? That's when you need that deep work. So that's great that he was promoting that idea in his book. So I enjoyed this quick, easy read. I think it was like 2 or 3 hours long on audio, which is what I did. And I like to buy the physical book and listen to the audiobook at the same time, so I can like mark and underline which were my favorite things. So highly recommend this. I might be buying this in my new employee welcome packages whenever I onboard someone, just to make sure that we are communicating the same way about our businesses and our priorities and time management in general. Thanks for watching this video. You should subscribe below for more videos like this, book summaries, and books that I add to my business library.